Hey, did I invite you here? I really don't want to hang out with a high school dropout. Chris shouted at me. Give me a break anyway. Goodbye to all the low educated folks. Dropouts just have that certain bottom of the barrel vibe. Is that so? Well, I'll excuse myself then. What? Right after that, the wedding hall was empty. My name is Daniel Smith, 30 years old. I was diagnosed with autism when I was younger. I think I first noticed I didn't quite fit in during kindergarten. Things everyone else laughed at didn't seem funny to me, and I just couldn't manage tasks that came naturally to the whole class, without any friends and being subtly avoided by everyone. I was often paired up with a teacher whenever we had to split into groups. Some kids even teased me, throwing rocks at me from behind or hiding my stuff from time to time. When that happened, I'd often end up in tears, and my mom had to come pick me up. Things got worse when I entered elementary school. Still no friends, and now the kids were nastier gradually. They began making fun of me more openly. Hey, you, look over here for a second. When I turned around, they'd say, oh, he turned this way, gross. The bullying got sneaky, and I found myself hiding in the school nurse's office. Even if I wanted to get along with others, I didn't know how, and whenever I tried, I was flat out rejected. I was always alone. My mom, seeing this, bought me a game console. She told me, you don't have to force yourself to make friends anymore, Daniel. Just spend your time doing what you enjoy. Whenever I tried talking to someone, it always ended badly. Either they were bothered or I got hurt. As a parent, she must have hoped I'd have a peaceful, enjoyable life without the stress of difficult relationships. I quickly got absorbed in the world of games. In games, I could be the main character, and the more I played, the better I got. If it were real people, I could never guess what they were thinking, and their reactions often caught me off guard. But game characters didn't lash out at me for strange, unknown reasons. After school, I'd dive right into gaming, then have dinner, take a bath, and get a good night's sleep. When I was trying to make friends and felt I had to go outside and play with them, the stress kept me up all night, and some days I couldn't even face going to school. But in the end, by giving up and immersing myself in another world, I somehow managed to keep going to school. School wasn't interesting, but as long as I got my tasks done, I advanced to the next grade and eventually graduated. Looking back, I'm glad I was able to finish my mandatory education quietly and alone without causing any trouble. Daniel may be a bit different from the other kids, but he's amazing. He didn't turn rebellious or hurt others, causing us any grief. My mom said that to me. Every day was lonely, but in its own way, it kept me balanced. But I felt like middle school was enough time to spend in a community like school. When I told my parents I wanted to start working after finishing middle school, they were supportive, saying, sure, do what you want, and we'll cheer you on. So I decided, all right, I'll start working. 3 more years of the same struggle won't change anything. I didn't go on to high school. After graduating middle school, I aimed to work in gaming, so I took a job at an arcade. But the job involved customer service, and classmates and troublemakers would sometimes hang out there, making it uncomfortable. I ended up quitting after 3 months. Now what should I do? Struggling to connect well with people had once again left me at a crossroads. It was then, while browsing online, that I stumbled upon a job called game debugging. A debugger's role is to find bugs in programmed games that haven't been released yet. It was a job I could do from home, focusing alone. I applied immediately and got hired. It's a demanding job where you endlessly play games, but it suited me perfectly. I played the assigned games thoroughly and quietly on my own. Although I've been told I have autism and struggle with communication and fitting in, I'm incredibly skilled at concentrating and immersing myself in certain tasks. I would play games for over 10 hours a day, producing solid results. For 3 years, I took on various assignments, playing an array of games. During that time, a dream began to form within me. To create games myself, that became my dream. When I was only 12, I secretly wished I could end this life early. But by the time I was 18, I finally found a goal I genuinely wanted to pursue. So, I used the money I'd saved over 3 years to enroll in a programming school and started studying to become a game developer. Choosing to attend a game development school was the right choice. For better or worse, everyone around me was like me. Some students quietly attended without much interaction, while others fit the stereotype of what people call geeks. Everyone had their own quirks when they spoke, so no one was normal, and I was finally able to attend school without feeling out of place. I felt like I truly found my world here, and I was so grateful to have arrived at last. For a while, I was scared of going out because I was a little different. But I realized that life isn't confined to the school you attend during mandatory education. Once I broke away from that, I saw that there are worlds out there where I belong. I studied hard every day. It was the first time I was so dedicated to learning, and my parents were thrilled. "We're so glad you found something you love." Yeah, Daniel is lucky to have realized this so soon. Back in regular school, my grades were terrible. Art and literature were the only subjects I was okay at, but I couldn't even show up for PE or any team-based classes, so I was often marked with the lowest scores. But now, at the game programming school, I was at the top of my class, ranking among the top 1 or 2 students nationwide. That reputation reached game companies, and a major gaming company scouted me for jobs. Their recruiter even came to me in person, saying, "Please, join our company." I was humbled, replying, "No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity." It was the first time anyone had genuinely wanted me after years of being ridiculed as weird or strange. So I joined a major game company with excellent benefits, starting as a promising new developer in their creative team. Things went smoothly after joining the company. Apparently, there was already a lot of buzz about me before I even started, and everyone gave me a warm welcome. They fully understood that I wasn't great at social interactions, and they respectfully gave me space when I needed it. Everyone was kind and handled things maturely. Right after joining, I was placed on the team for a new game project. We worked on story creation, character development, and programming. My first task was designing a game set in a grand world where humans and animals coexisted to build a town. The game created a lot of industry buzz and became a massive hit. I felt incredibly happy that the first project I worked on was so well received. It felt like my difficult past had finally been offset by this success. When the company held a small celebration to thank everyone for the hit game, I found myself, for the first time, naturally fitting in, laughing along with everyone. I was 20 years old at that moment. For the first time in my life, I thought, I'm glad I was born. I kept working hard at the gaming company, and time flew by. Before I knew it, I was 30 years old. One day, a fancy letter arrived in my mailbox. Curious, I opened it, only to find a wedding invitation from a familiar name. What, why? Seeing that name made me feel completely suspicious. The sender was Chris Davis. He was the guy who was always cocky in class and constantly picked on me. He came from a wealthy family and was fairly good looking, so everyone gave him attention, and he always had a group of followers. He used to say things like, "Ew, something gross just walked by," or call out, "Hey everyone, listen up. There's someone in this class we don't want here. Let's all point him out on three." There are people in the world who target anyone they find different, showing an aggressive attitude toward them. Rather than just ignoring you, they go out of their way to harass you. Chris was exactly that type. He took advantage of the fact that no one would stand up to him, roping everyone into mocking or bullying me. He'd throw trash at me or fake joking noises whenever we passed each other. He was a real nuisance. So why on earth is he inviting me to his wedding now? Could it be that he's planning to apologize for what he did back then? Thinking he might want to apologize, I decided to attend, though I wasn't very enthusiastic about it. But on the day, I would deeply regret that choice. I went out of my way to buy a suit I rarely wear for the occasion. At work, I usually wear a casual hoodie. Since I'm a programmer, not in sales or anything, no one minds, even during meetings. In fact, they prefer I stay comfortable. So, I just grabbed a suit off a mannequin at a department store without much thought. To be honest, I didn't feel like I looked particularly good in it. But I figured I was appropriately dressed for Chris's wedding at the hotel banquet hall. The venue was dazzling, and a lot of people had gathered. Despite his bad personality, Chris is sharp enough that he probably went to a good university and landed a solid job. But where exactly? I wasn't sure. And here I was, in an ill-fitting suit, in a room full of strangers, feeling completely out of place. Why do I even have to be here? I really couldn't figure it out. Thinking no one would notice, I considered slipping out quietly. But then I heard a familiar, unpleasant voice from behind. "Hey, what are you doing here? No one invited you." "What? What do you mean?" "Oh, come on. Like I'd ever invite someone as creepy as you." A wave of that old, unpleasant school memory washed over me, and my body tensed up automatically. "You're a dropout at the bottom of the class. Get out of here. I don't want to breathe the same air as a high school dropout." "Oh, really? Well." Before I could finish asking if I should leave, he cut me off. "Yeah, why don't you leave? And what's with that suit? A $50 bargain suit. You're 30, and that's the best you can afford. Bet you've got a dead-end job, huh? Working at a corner store. Oh, wait, even that's too much for you." Chris began loudly mocking me. Seriously, must have been a mix-up on the invitation list. This should have gone to Williams, not Daniel. He's working at some top company now. "Fine, I'll go." "Yeah, please do. Low-educated folks are like a cancer eating away here in the US. It's because of people like you that this country is going downhill. Goodbye to all the dropouts." I seriously regretted taking a day off work and coming all this way for someone like him. I didn't even feel like responding and decided to leave in silence. But at that moment, an elegantly dressed gentleman approached Chris from behind. The man had a neatly groomed beard and wore a well-tailored suit, clearly someone of importance. Unaware of the man behind him, Chris sneered at me one last time, saying, "Anyway, stay away from me. Drop out." It's contagious, the whole miserable vibe. The gentleman heard this, walked slowly in front of Chris, and turned to face him. Chris's face went completely rigid. "Oh, really? Then I'll be taking my leave as well." "What, Chairman? You said goodbye to all the low-educated, right? Well, I only completed middle school, so I suppose I don't belong here either." "Wait, I didn't think the chairman would hear that. And you're Chris, right? From the sales department. If you're unhappy working at a company founded by a middle school graduate like me, you're free to leave." It turned out the gentleman was the chairman of the major confectionery company where Chris worked. Chris's face went pale as he stammered, "I apologize. That was extremely rude of me." The chairman replied, "You joined us without knowing our history. I, too, am a middle school graduate. After the war, I couldn't forget the taste of chocolate given to me from a veteran. So I started selling gum and chocolate, which built this company. Did you really join without knowing our history? Anyway, I'll be taking my leave." "Please, Chairman, if you leave, it will ruin the wedding." "You're the one who ruined it, aren't you? Besides, with the atmosphere this broken, there's no going back. Anyway, I'll be going now," he said, and, accompanied by several aides, walked out of the venue. Not wanting to displease the chairman, the president and executives hurriedly followed him out of the venue. With all the higher ups gone, the employees seemed to realize that staying might jeopardize their own standing, so everyone began packing up and quickly left. "Wait, please, don't go. This is my wedding." Only a few of Chris's classmates and friends remained. But the atmosphere had soured, and even they soon left, looking uncomfortable. In the end, the wedding hall was completely empty. All that was left was a tearful Chris and a bride with a flushed, angry face. I waited until the room was fully empty, then made my exit as well. Honestly, it was a satisfying scene to witness. I couldn't help but think that Chris hadn't changed one bit since elementary school. I never found out how his wedding turned out. But later I heard that it was practically called off, and the bride broke down in tears. A few days later, I found myself in a private room at a fine restaurant, seated across from Chairman Moore. It turned out he had recognized me that day. He had approached me, saying, "You're Daniel Smith, the developer of the hit game Monster World, aren't you?" He handed me his business card and added, "If you're interested, would you like to join me for a meal sometime?" And so, today, this long-awaited dinner meeting finally took place. "I've heard a lot about you." "Oh no, I'm just someone who makes games." "No, the worlds you create in your games are incredible, truly unique." "Yes, I was always lonely as a child, so I often got lost in my own imagined worlds. All those childhood ideas seem to have influenced the worlds in your games. It's a bit embarrassing. The game I'm currently working on is a major hit, not only in Japan but overseas as well. The theme is humanity. The title is We're Friends. I handled almost everything, from the storyline and character creation to programming. The game is a classic RPG where a young protagonist grows through various experiences, defeating monsters, gathering friends, weapons, and gear, and ultimately confronting the final boss. But the core of the game is built around a strong moral framework, infusing a theme that resonates even in the real world. captivating not just kids but adults as well. If the protagonist strays from the path, their level decreases, and they may lose everything they've gained. It's packed with elements of friendship, good vs evil, justice vs wrongdoing, and the consequences of those choices, earning it the title of No One Game Recommended for Kids and becoming a national favorite. And now, this game is set to be adapted into a movie. This game contains everything I have within me. The protagonist, born into a difficult world, struggles to survive, gains various allies and resources, and ultimately brings peace to the world. Not only the protagonist, but many other characters in the game also have their own backstories and struggles, earning praise for its deeply moving narrative. When Chairman Moore heard about how I'd struggled with autism and found solace in games, he said, "Geniuses have always been like that. They feel something different in the world, and that very distortion shapes their art." Van Gogh, Picasso, they were the same. You were born to bring forth amazing talent without leading an ordinary life. His words resonated with me on such a profound level, a full acceptance that made me genuinely happy, bringing tears to my eyes. Noticing my reddening eyes, he kindly changed the subject. As for me, my father lived through the post-war years. He was so poor that he'd eat soup with only leaves in it to curb his hunger. But after the war ended, he received a piece of chocolate from a veteran. The sweetness and the sheer delight of it amazed him. The US had times like that too. Yes, indeed. That's when he thought, if such a wonderful thing exists in this world, then everyone deserves to taste it, and it will surely lift their spirits. So he started selling sweets on his own, right on the street. And that was the start of Moore's confectionery. Exactly, he always said that desire and dreams are what lead to success. Sweets bring happiness, and he was driven by a passion to spread that joy. This idea became part of our period of high growth. Despite our age difference, the chairman and I could talk on equal footing. By the way, I have a proposal. Yes, what is it, please? Go ahead. Would you be interested in launching a collaborative product between your hit game and our company? Really? Are you serious? Yes, the passion you have for your game and the one we have for our sweets are quite similar. Both are products born from a desire to bring hope and dreams to people's lives. Exactly, through my game, I want to convey that living righteously and pursuing dreams can truly shape one's future. Wonderful! And with that, the chairman and I shook hands. His company then began developing collaboration products based on my game. A few months later, chocolates, gum, potato chips, and gummies featuring the We're Friends collaboration were released in supermarkets and corner stores nationwide. We held large-scale launch events, national campaigns, and even televised commercials across the country. I was deeply moved. The ideal world I had dreamed up in my loneliness was now being shared with the public in this way. I felt immense gratitude toward the chairman and everyone who had supported me. The products became a massive hit, boosting game sales to an explosive level. My parents were overjoyed with this success. With tears in their eyes, they said, "We once wondered if letting you spend your childhood as freely as you wanted was the right choice. At times, we doubted if it was the right approach, but you've shown us it was. We're so glad." This success made me a well-known creator of a best-selling game throughout the US. But even so, my everyday life didn't change all that much. I received a special bonus from the company and royalties for my story, but I wasn't really interested in money, so I gave it all to my parents as a thank you for raising me. As for me, I continued living in my one-room apartment, spending my days in a tracksuit. One evening, while brainstorming ideas for my next game, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. As I walked, my previously jumbled thoughts began to come together. Before I knew it, I'd wandered about an hour away from my place. Feeling a bit thirsty, I entered a convenience store I'd spotted, even though I wasn't familiar with the area. Suddenly, I heard a voice that sounded uncomfortably familiar. "Hey, I don't care if you're Peruvian or whatever. Learn the job already. Just because you're foreign doesn't mean you get special treatment, right? If you don't like it, you shouldn't have come to the US in the first place. You got unlucky with where you were born, so don't make life harder for us Americans." To my shock, there was Chris. I'd heard he hadn't been fired after that wedding fiasco, but he'd been ostracized and eventually quit on his own. No one knew what happened to him afterward, but here he was, working a convenience store job. Let me guess, back in your country, you're poor and at the bottom, right? That's why you came to the US, to work, right? Just sending your meager paycheck back to your family. What a pathetic life. He sneered. I wanted to cover my ears. The foreign worker simply apologized, whether or not he even understood the insults. Chris was truly an embarrassment to our country. Feeling sick to my stomach, I was about to leave the store when I heard a loud crashing noise. I turned around in shock to see Chris stomping on one of my game's collaboration snacks. "What's with this crap? This stupid company?" he muttered, then began throwing and kicking products, scattering them off the shelves. Then he turned to the foreign worker, saying, "Hey, you Latino, clean this up for me. I'm going on break." I couldn't hold back any longer and called out to him as he tried to walk away. "You haven't changed at all." "What?" Seeing me, he instinctively covered his name tag that read Davis, likely embarrassed to be seen working in a convenience store. But I continued. "What you're doing is vandalism. You do realize the security cameras caught everything, right?" Chris snapped back, "Shut up, you antisocial freak. It's your fault I fell off the elite track. And what's with your game? Let's all move toward tomorrow." What a joke. You might be riding high now, but you'll fail again eventually. You're still just a dropout. Ignoring his rant, I simply said, "At least have some respect for your coworker here and the people at the factory who made those snacks," and then walked away. Some things never change. That guy is hopeless. I truly thought so from the bottom of my heart. I hope that someday he realizes his mistakes and changes for the better. I took the train back home and started working on the script for We're Friends Season 2. The game's special site was flooded with messages from players. A child who had been bullied and withdrawn started playing this game and decided they wanted to trust people again, and began going to school. Now they're outgoing and have many friends. After a rough day at work, I held a grudge against my boss, but realizing that he's just human too, I felt I could forgive him. I'd love to recommend this game to him as well. It's truly fun, and playing it helps you grow as a person. A fantastic piece of work. Messages like these come in daily, even from overseas. I felt genuinely happy knowing that what I created was making a positive impact on people's lives. Meanwhile, The collaborative snacks had become so popular nationwide that they sparked a buying frenzy, and the chairman's company reached an all-time high in stock prices. A few months later, my company and the chairman's company held a joint celebration. Ironically, it was held at the same grand banquet hall where Chris's wedding was supposed to take place. I wondered if he was doing all right after wrecking his own life with his words and actions. Thinking about it briefly, I sat quietly in a chair, trying to stay out of the bustling crowd. Then, a woman suddenly stood in front of me. I looked at her and was stunned. She looked exactly like the character I'd introduced as a goddess in my game's storyline. In the game, the goddess is depicted as an ultra-rare character who has the power to set everything right. Whoa! I gasped, momentarily thinking this character had come to life and appeared before me. Then she spoke. "Hello, sir. It's nice to meet you." "What?" "Well, if it's all right, could I get your autograph?" "Wait, I'm not really a sir, and I don't have an autograph or anything." Her beauty was so overwhelming that I became visibly nervous. With almond-shaped eyes, fair skin, and smooth black hair, she radiated a glowing presence. I had drawn this character as my ideal woman, and now, seeing her in real life made my heart race. Actually, just as she began to speak, Chairman Moore appeared. "Grandfather." "Jennifer, as expected of my granddaughter, you managed to spot Daniel sitting in this corner." "Oh, Grandpa, I was just about to ask him for an autograph. Don't interrupt." When I realized this goddess-like woman was the chairman's granddaughter, I was momentarily speechless. I wondered if the chairman might have noticed how much the goddess character I'd drawn resembled his granddaughter. But he simply said, "Let me introduce you formally, Daniel. This is my granddaughter, Jennifer. She's a huge fan of yours, so please be kind to her." "Yes, sir." I stood up reflexively. Jennifer extended her hand to shake mine. "It's an honor to meet you, sir. I've been a huge fan of your games for as long as I can remember." Without thinking, I reached out to shake her hand. Her hand was soft and warm, and I could feel sweat starting to gather at my fingertips. Jennifer beamed at me, genuinely happy, and asked, "If you'd like, maybe we could go out for a meal sometime." It was the first time a woman had ever asked me something like that. So I blurted out, "Well, I've actually never gone out to eat with a woman before." She smiled, replying, "Oh, is that so? Well then, let's go together next time." Well, I mean, my mind was racing with thoughts. I had never had a girlfriend, never had any real connections with women, and I'd honestly believed that romance was something I'd never experienced in my life. Sensing my hesitation, the chairman smiled and encouraged me. "Please do have a meal with her. She's a wonderful girl, though perhaps a bit strong-willed." But I stayed silent, unsure of what to do. Seeing this, he added, "That's not like you. Don't decide you can't do something just because you haven't tried it. You always talk so easily with me, Daniel. Even though we're from different generations, aren't we friends? Why not become friends with Jennifer too?" He even gave me a little wink, which made me laugh at how endearing it was for such a powerful figure. "All right, I'd be honored," I replied, exchanging contact information with her. "Thank you. I'll be in touch soon," she said with a warm smile. For the first time, my phone had the name of a woman outside of work contacts. The celebration continued with new product announcements, and then the party came to an end. When I got home, I found a message from her waiting on my phone. It was a pleasure meeting you today. In the end, I didn't get that autograph. You said you don't have a signature yet, but please make one and practice it for next time. Her enthusiasm brought a smile to my face. Yes, I'll practice, I replied, though it took me 3 hours to compose that single message. Eventually, I would end up dating and later marrying Jennifer Moore, but that's a story for another day.